Versus the Bills on Saturday. That is in a snowy Buffalo. The Cowboys take on the Chiefs at Arrowhead, and then the Buccaneers take on the Saints. That one in New Orleans, the third bout between the two NFC South teams. Sunday, 6:40 p.m. Eastern. This is our show, G McPhee, presented by Truist. It is Tuesday, January 12th. I'm so excited for the divisional round, along with Peter Schrager and Kyle Brandt. My name is Kay Adams, and you're Michael Robinson.
What's going on, peeps? Let's get it.
I almost got my own name.
I know. I saw that.
I need to wake up. I haven't had any coffee yet. What did you do in New York yesterday? Get out and about?
Absolutely nothing. I stayed in my hotel room and looked at television.
One-man party.
Games. Yeah.
Welcome to New York City during quarantine. All right, it's time for the lead block. Let's do it.
Block.
Yeah, getting to our guy, our very own Tom Pelissero with some news here. Tom P. M. Rob is saying it was a big day in the NFC East yesterday. We'll get to the Cowboys in a bit. The Eagles let go of their Super Bowl winning head coach, Doug Pederson. What led to that decision?
Okay, the Eagles fired Doug Pederson following a weeks-long evaluation by owner Jeffrey Lurie, who had met with a variety of different people within the building, also had met one-on-one with Doug Pederson to try to figure out, could they get aligned? Could they match up their vision for how they move forward? Not just in terms of some vacancies on the coaching staff, because Pederson was going to have to replace coordinators on both sides of the ball, but also what to do at the quarterback position. It all ends with Pederson fired less than 3 years after winning the Super Bowl. Here's part of what Lurie had to say.
Very few people probably after success deserve to lose their job. This is much more about the evaluation of whether the Eagles moving forward, our best option is to have a new coach. And that's really what it's about. It's not about did Doug deserve to be let go? No, he did not deserve to be let go. That's not where I'm coming from, and that's not the bar in the evaluation process.
Now, this certainly would seem to raise the chances that Carson Wentz returns as the quarterback for the Eagles in 2021. But Lurie said that is not the owner's decision to make. He also added that he feels that even though Wentz had a poor season, that his issues are fixable. Expect the Eagles to move swiftly in terms of starting their head coaching process beginning today. As for Doug Pederson, it would not be a surprise if he has some opportunities elsewhere. Not often that a Super Bowl winning coach becomes available a week after the season. One potential possibility would be with one of the former Eagles executives, Joe Douglas, who's now the GM of the New York Jets. Okay.
Appreciate the info there, Tom. Good insight by you. There's, of course, the question of how attractive this position will be for a prospective coach. A lot of other teams, of course, also getting a head start on their search, respectively, after the end of the regular season. Tom, love you. Talk to you in a bit. Do not go anywhere. Big news out of Philly. Schrags, what do you make of the Eagles parting ways with Doug Pederson?
Yeah, it's not often you see a Super Bowl winning coach fired 3 years after they put a statue of him and his quarterback in front of the building. All right, so here's how I got it. Week 17, the whole tanking, did they tank? Had nothing to do with this. I'm told this is not at all even a conversation as to why Pederson is no longer the coach. So for a lot of fans saying he couldn't face the team after what happened, that's hogwash. That wasn't the case. The issue here was that they had to hire some new coaches on the assistant side. Doug Pederson wanted full say in that and say, okay, let me take care of this and let me see who's going to work best. Management and ownership, from how I hear it, they wanted to have some input as well. Then it started getting into, well, Doug wants to do this, do that, do this, and then management said, well, let us weigh in as well. And then communication fizzled, and it got to a point where, what are we even doing here? If I can't hire my assistants, and if the management side is saying, if we can't even suggest some assistants and suggest a wider search, what are we doing? Is this relationship done? It is. And he was let go. He agreed, said it's fine. Tom P., great report there. I'm going to hear as someone on the other side of it, the Jets had no intention of Doug Pederson. They didn't anticipate Doug Pederson being available. So if there is a Joe Douglas, Doug Pederson, it would be very late in the game. The Jets are already well down the road on their interview process. So as much as everyone in New York wants to say, oh, Doug Pederson to the Jets, I would say there haven't been significant talks on that as of now. But to me, this was all about communication and the staff that Doug Pederson was going to have to bring back, not so much Carson Wentz or even Week 17, what happened there in that disaster against Washington.
It's incredible information. Can I give you an emotional response? I was really pissed off when I found out the news. Like, I feel like they just fired in his own way a Philadelphia legend. I feel this felt like the Red Wedding. Like this was the green wedding.
I feel you though.
I was there, personalize this. I was there as the parade came down Benjamin Franklin Parkway and fans were tossing beers to Pederson and he was a god amongst men and they were literally worshiping him. And now, bam. And it's not just after the Super Bowl, it's after a division title and a home playoff game last year. Just gone. And can we just talk about for a second what is outside Lincoln Financial Field where the Philadelphia Eagles play? Can we take a look at this?
It's crazy.
No longer there.
All right, so I know it's been a wild year for statues, but on the left, you have a quarterback who was sitting on the bench during an 8-8 playoff team's three-point performance. And across from him is now a head coach who was just unceremoniously fired. Dramatically, apparently, and now this is this gonna stay there? Do you honestly? I'm not even making a joke politically. Do you tear down the statue or do you leave it there? Because it has not aged well, and it's almost kind of embarrassing that they did that to that guy. My take was, there's no way this is about football. There has to be some sort of inner strife, some sort of personality disagreement, because you would never take a Super Bowl in Philly, not New England, not Green Bay, Philadelphia. He won a Super Bowl. And now he's gone. I'm still kind of pissed about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird, right? I didn't really know how to respond to this when I first heard it, guys, quite frankly. Super Bowl winning head coach. And it just seems like the organization, this is what it seems like. It seems like the organization chose Carson Wentz over Doug Pederson. I don't know it. I don't have any information about that or anything like that, but that's just what it feels like. And going back to that statue you just showed, if they didn't take it down when Carson Wentz was the starter, I don't think they're going to take it down now because to me it was a constant reminder to Carson Wentz that you did not win the Super Bowl. Constant reminder to Carson Wentz every time he walked into that stadium. And I always go back to that comment. I think NFL Films picked it up when Carson Wentz was on that podium with Nick Foles during that Super Bowl. And I don't think he's ever recovered from that. He said something along the lines of, I can't wait till I'm the one up here or something like that.
Yeah.
And to me, that stuck with me. You know what I mean? And to me, that's not a sign of a great leader. And I'm just being honest. He was one of the worst quarterbacks in football this year.
Facts.
And he still has his job. And the Super Bowl winning head coach and Nick Foles, who took this team through the playoffs to a Super Bowl, is no longer there. It's a sad day in Philly.
Schrager, what does a Super Bowl buy you as a head coach? Because you look at Tom Coughlin, he eventually got fired. Thanks, man, Rob. You look at Mike McCarthy. He won a Super Bowl and he eventually got fired. It's soon after the Super Bowl. Soon after, it's still an emotional response from Kyle here, who he's not from Philadelphia. He's not an Eagles fan. What does a Super Bowl buy you as a coach?
Yeah, it buys you at least a few years of a honeymoon phase of where this guy can do no wrong. I look at some of like Brian Billick, for example, won it in 2000. By 2008, he had signed a new contract extension, and they fired him and brought in John Harbaugh. I was like, that's 8 years though removed. It's so rare, Kay. Do we see it 3 years? This is a really small. To think about all those guys. To your points, we're on a parade float together and having this black. And it wasn't like it was in black and white.
Yeah.
Our show is in its second year. We're only in our 5th year. Like, it was that recently that the Eagles all had this. And Doug, right? And I don't, Tom's saying he's got, like, I don't know. Doug doesn't have a job lined up. Like, basically, he's saying, I'd rather go out on this and say, I can't work under these conditions. And I know it's not his choice, but it fizzled to the point where it was irreconcilable. To where Doug Pederson doesn't have a long line of teams.
It's hard to believe he doesn't, because if he really stood with wanting to have his say with his assistants, you don't really put that out there unless you're willing to be like, I have other options.
But as a head coach, don't you want to be able to hire your own assistants? I mean, it's your voice that in your vision that they have to make sure it gets through the locker room. So I understand where Doug Pederson is coming from, but at the end of the day, we all got to make business decisions.
Is that not normal, that management would want to have a say?
Look, a lot of coaches say, I'm bringing my guys, and it's at where the Eagles, the way they've worked, even back from Joe Banner and Andy Reid, it's like management likes to have a say in it. And I don't think that's wrong. They won a Super Bowl with management having a say in it. Every organization is different. And it wasn't like they were saying, you need to hire this guy. I think it was just conversations at the end of the season. Let's have it open and honest. And I don't think Doug was willing to listen. And I don't think they were too receptive to the way that he was going about it either.
What does it mean for Carson?
It's a great question. That's the elephant in this room.
Yeah,
the Carson
it is,
thing.
and I don't know that one.
Peter, had your source and your intuition. You know what my intuition is? I think Doug Pederson stayed with Carson Wentz a really long time on the field last year, like strangely long.
Yes.
And if I had to envision what went down in that room, I think he's sitting there and he's saying to Mr. Lurie, like, I want to play Jalen Hurts, he's better. And Jeffrey Lurie's saying, well, you're playing Carson. And he's like, no, I'm not. Well, you're fired. You know when they signed that extension in 2019 and Carson Wentz? The Eagles, whose social media is extremely conservative.
Yeah.
You know the video they put out? I think Jeffrey Lurie loves Carson Wentz. This is the skit that they did after the contract. And I'm making this up. Summer 2019.
All right, North Dakota kid. How about playing with the Eagles for many more years?
I like the sounds of that.
You up for it? You gonna sling it?
Yes, I am.
All right.
All right, that's out of character. And I looked at the statement that Jeffrey Lurie made. They signed that extension. It's constant face of the franchise, face of the franchise, face of the franchise. Yeah. I think ownership wanted Wentz. I'm not sure Pederson did. I think that's why he's gone. My opinion, my theory.
Yeah, and again, Wentz was one of the worst quarterbacks in football this year. What was it, like 15 interceptions, 50 sacks, 10 fumbles. And again, when you look at the film, people will say, hey, you know, he had injuries on his offensive line. Yeah, he did have some injuries, but last year he had injuries, and we saw him will this team to 3 or 4 wins at the end of the season. It just seems like for Carson, if everything